We are kicking off this new week with a new series that I call Under the Microscope, and today we are taking a deep dive into Mackenzie Weegar's career and what lies ahead for the defenseman.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jessica Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com/LockedOnNHL for 50% off of your first year. I wanted to do some deep dives this week into some of the Flames, more tenured players or maybe some new guys. And I thought that Mackenzie Weegar would be the perfect player to kind of start off with because, number one, he just got married over the weekend. So congratulations to him and his wife. And of course, I feel like he embodies what it means to be a Flame and is kind of really the epitome of a Calgary Flame. And we're going to dive into his story as well as some more later on this week as we wait for a Connor Zary contract extension and a Rasmus Anderson trade. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts as well as YouTube. We are here for you 3 days a week during the off season, and we'll be back to daily shows before you know it. But let's dive into this. So for some context, Under the Microscope was a series that I started on my blog a couple years. Oh no, it's been almost 5 years at this point. Wow. Okay, so years ago. And I've done posts on Tkachuk, Markstrom, Mangiapane, and I wanted to talk about Mackenzie Weegar and kind of bring that concept to the show. So let's take a look at Mackenzie Weegar under the microscope. Obviously, we know Mackenzie Weegar was one of the players acquired along with Jonathan Huberdeau and Cole Schwindt in the Matthew Tkachuk trade 3 years ago now. He is 31. He's a 31-year-old right-handed defenseman. And one thing that I find very unique about him is that he can play on his offside, like successfully. And it looks natural. It doesn't look, you can tell like when Jonathan Huberdeau was playing on the right his first year as a Flame, unnatural, did not work. Weegar, you can put anywhere and he works. And I think that that's a great skill to have. I think that he will likely move up to the first pairing once Anderson is traded, or let's say they limit Anderson's minutes a little bit at the start of the season. Maybe they send Weegar as your top guy. And I think a pairing of Weegar and Kevin Ball would feed families. Having two shutdown defensemen like that on the same pair would be fantastic. I think it would help the Flames out a lot, and I wish that we could just have 3 pairings of that, like, cloned. Weegar has a story that, like, when I had obviously some background information on him, but then when I read an article from Julian Mackenzie, I was like, holy cow, this guy was born to be a Calgary Flame. And what does it mean to be a Calgary Flame? You are an underdog. You go against all the odds, regardless of how hard the universe is pushing against you. You overcome that adversity. You are like the odd man out, and you still succeed. One of the quotes from this article that I found hysterical was that his cousin, who was a little bit, I think like 12 years older than him, would look at him and just be so perplexed by his size. He referred to him as like the Michelin baby. And he was like, this kid is just like the fattest thing I've ever seen. And it's just funny because if you spend any time online, you know about like that oversized toddler, and it's just a visualization. But he was not drafted into the OHL due to being out of shape, and he was just slow. His mom took it upon herself to really whip his butt into shape and say, we're going to swap out your Big Macs for salads. And he comments about, we didn't have a lot of money. So those quick meals at McDonald's and Wendy's, they were cheap dinners, and they might not have been what's best for me, but, it's what my mom could afford, and it's what I needed, and I was fed. And that's, it's a sad reality of being, not being able to afford all, the healthiest foods. But his mom obviously made sacrifices, started feeding him more salads, started, mixing in some vegetables that, weren't lettuce, tomato, onion, and pickles on a burger. And he eventually caught the attention of the QMJHL and won a Memorial Cup with the Halifax Mooseheads in 2013. So it's, to go from this kid who was a fat baby, out of shape, didn't make, AAA team, or, just was cut because of his size. And normally we hear about guys being cut because they're too small, like height-wise. But Weegar, overcame that. And his story of, it is very similar to Dustin Wolf. He was at the Prudential Center, waiting to be drafted, and it was the 7th round. The Panthers swapped picks with, I think it was the Canadians, and he had moved away from his mom, so she couldn't see how upset he was. So she was sitting in one spot, and he like went to the tip top, like upper bowl. But he was the 204th overall pick. I believe that's what the number was. Yes. 206th overall. 7th round. Dustin Wolf has also entered the chat. He has worked so hard to get here and earn those minutes in 550 NHL games. He is a character guy, and we're going to talk about him more about that a little bit later. But he embodies what it like a good work ethic and what you should strive to be as a professional, and not even just as an athlete, but just anyone that's faced with adversity. And we're going to talk more about Mackenzie Weegar's tenure as a Flame coming up here next on Locked On Flames. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app and is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. If you are sharing your finances with someone and you want to kind of keep track of your budgets and your spending habits, Monarch Money allows you to do that. And you can add all of your accounts and just kind of, maybe stop ordering lunch so often at work. Maybe pack a sandwich. Definitely not something I had to cut out of my budget after examining my finances with Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off of your first year. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are doing all sorts of deep dives this week, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's, it's interesting to hear about these players outside of, their hockey DB page or just the stat sheets and things like that. Humanizing these players is an element of coverage I like to bring. But let's talk about Mackenzie Weegar and his time as a Flame. So when he first came to Calgary, he was playing on the same pair as Rasmus Andersson. And like I'd mentioned before, he can play on his offside. It is not, I don't want to say it's not hard for him, but it's not something that he struggles with. It is very, it's fine. He does a good job with it. And I think for him and Andersson, and really for the team in general, it was better for them to split up. It worked out better considering the depth or lack thereof in the Flames defensive group. He's 31. He'll be 32 in January. And one of my favorite things about him is that he is a workhorse. We don't see many defensemen like him anymore. And I feel like I say that about a lot of a few of the Flames defensemen that we've seen. Like Chris Tanev. There will never be another Chris Tanev. And it's partially because the game is changing. Some guys just don't want to block the shots like that. I mean, they do, but it's the way that Chris Tanev has played, and what he has played through is probably not encouraged at this day and age in the NHL. But I like that Mackenzie Weegar is not afraid to stand in front of the puck. He had 20 goals and over 200 block shots in one NHL season. I got to witness his hat trick on Long Island in person. And that's, his only career hat trick. But as a Flame, he has played 81, 82, and 81 games. He has played, so 244 games as a Flame, 32 goals, 98 assists, racking up 130 points total. I am just very impressed with who he has become. From a defenseman playing, he played 54 games in his last season with Florida. The most he played was 64 games in 2018, 2019. And his average time on ice was just under 17 minutes. And now he's playing, there's so many numbers on this page. So he jumped from 22, so just under 23 minutes in the 2023-24 season to this past season, jumping up to 24-10. So more responsibility is good. I think that you trust him with it. He is not a player that I necessarily worry about when he's out on the ice. However, last season, anytime I saw Kevin Ball on the ice, I was like, okay, just sound the horn. Add it to the team's ticker. because of the adjustment period, the lack of communication between him and his D partner, whatever the case might have been. I just did not feel fully trusting of Kevin Ball. But I think Weegar has just come in and commanded control of the ice, regardless if he is playing with a guy like Rasmus Anderson or, let's say, Chris Tanev or Noah Hannafin. Whatever the case is, he is going to step up. And we're going to talk more about this past season's struggles in terms of slacking from his partners, or just, having to do a lot. He had to carry a lot of water for some of these guys. And, obviously you hope that that's not a continuous thing, especially as he is getting older. But coming up next, we are going to talk about those expectations and what you might see from the Flames opening night at the Saddledome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into today's episode. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Jessica Belmosto. So, like I mentioned earlier, he has embodied what it means to be a Flame really since he was a kid, since he didn't give up his dream of being in the NHL, since he was so committed and stuck through everything to eventually be traded to quite literally the polar opposite. Going from Florida, like South Beach, to Calgary. Like, you went from basically no winters to, I need to buy a truck and a winter jacket. I'm sure he had one before, but you know what I mean. He came in and he let his opinion about the state of the Saddledome be known. And it was what it is. I mean, everyone has their opinion on it. And I think Weegar's may have been like, I don't want to say the tipping point, but after those comments, he got a call from Flames owner Murray Edwards. And he's talked about this before, how he looked at his phone and it's a number from Sweden, like, that he just doesn't recognize, and he answers it. And it's Murray Edwards. And it's like, oh, I heard about your comments about the Saddledome. And this is like 2 weeks after he's traded. And Weegar's like, oh, did ya? And, it's a pleasant conversation. Probably the opposite of what Weegar expected. But, having a new arena is important for the Flames in general, regardless of if this team is 32nd in the NHL or if they're a top 5 team or they're still in the mushy middle, because it kind of helps make the Flames a destination city, depending on the facilities and, just being updated. It's not the Saddledome anymore. You have new facilities and you don't have to drive out to Winsport because everything's going to be closer. But in my honest opinion, I can see the Flames, for all intents and purposes, let's assume Michael Backlund retires at the end of this season. Okay, 37, 38 years old. I think that is very reasonable. It's around the same time Patrice Bergeron called it, hung up the skates. I get it. I do. But I don't know if they name a captain immediately. Like, not this season, but next season. So it would be this season. So it'd be 26, 27. No, it would be the season that the Flames go into Scotia Place. I could see them announcing Mackenzie Weegar as the captain, as the new captain, opening night, new building, fresh start, new leadership, new vision. Like, I get it. But I also don't think that they wait a year to do that. I think that they do it, immediately or soon thereafter. But I do think that Weegar is the next captain of the Flames. He has shown that from day one. He has come in and just been vocal, has pulled this locker room up by their bootstraps and said, we're going to do this. We are here to play a game. And before they had named Backlund captain, it was literally like, it was him. People thought it was going to be him because of how vocal he had been. And it had only been a year of him being here. Now we are at 3 full seasons in the books. Okay? 3 full seasons. I have a good feeling that it's coming next. And he has made an impact on the ice. He has made an impact off the ice in the community and, of course, with Scotia Place. But what happens at the start of this season? Let's not put the cart before the horse here. Let's say the Flames start the season with Anderson. Maybe they don't trade him to start, they go into the season with him. Do I think that's a dumb decision? Yes, I've already talked ad nauseum about that, but this is about Weegar. I can see Weegar being on the second pair with Joel Hanley. Preferably not Miramonov. I think that we have experienced enough of the Miramonov experiment to call it quits, wrap it up. Him, Jake Bean, and Braden Pahal are 3 players that I would fully expect to walk in free agency next summer. And I think that's fine. But I do think that Joel Hanley will play with Weegar again. I think that makes the most sense, unless they flip Anderson to the second pairing, put Hanley, keep Hanley there, and then you move Weegar up to play with Ball. I think that that's a possibility. I like the idea of that. I don't think it's smart to let Anderson. I don't think it's smart to come into the season with Rasmus Anderson. I think it's a huge liability and distraction. Allowing that spot to kind of open up allows room for Zane Parekh to come in as well. And I think that is something that really needs to happen this season along the way. It's a long 6 months, but I think that Weegar will be crucial in guiding Zane Parekh through the transition to the NHL and adjusting to these responsibilities versus the OHL, and going from, oh, I'm just a kid, to, oh my God, I'm an adult. I don't live at home anymore. I mean, you probably didn't live at home. I don't have anyone to cook for me at home. I probably have a team nutritionist, whatever. But you get my point. Like, I think of the picture of Matt Coronado's mattress on top of the bed frame. It's an air mattress, I'm pretty sure. And it's just like ridiculous. And it was taken like right after Pelletier moved out because he was traded. But you're going from being well taken care of at a billet home to playing in the NHL, having to do all of this traveling, having to, pack your own suits for road trips, do you have enough shirts? Do you even have enough suits? What does it mean to be a Calgary Flame and step into this new role, because there's a lot of pressure on him. And I think that Weegar is a great guy to usher him along. And I think that there are a lot of great players in the organization that, you know, not just him, but really all these guys can kind of look to and turn to for advice. And they know that it's, you know, I don't want to say like a safe space, but it is a place where they can ask questions. They know that they can rely on one another. And ultimately, that's what you want. You want a locker room that likes each other, because we've seen how it goes when they don't. And Weegar has made it abundantly clear he is here for the long haul. He wants to be a Flame. He wants to be part of what the Flames are building. And at the end of the day, Flames fans should want him here too. And that'll do it for me here on this episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic start to your week. I am looking forward to doing some more deep dives this week and bringing our next Under the Microscope profile to life. I wonder who it will be. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you through the off season, and we will be back to daily shows before you know it. But until then, stay safe, stay warm, stay dry, stay cool, stay hydrated, and stay moisturized.